Hey, good morning, everybody. It is 8:09 Central Daylight Time on July 25th, 2019. Let's take care of the housekeeping, please. First and foremost, you can reach Once Wayward at area code 414. The number is 982-5604. Again, that's area code 414. The number is 982-5604. This particular broadcast is being videotaped in the event that there's some connectivity issues. And if there are connectivity issues, you'll be able to view it in its entirety at the Once Wayward Brethren Ministries Facebook page or the Once Wayward YouTube page. Just asking that on the Once Wayward Brethren Ministries Facebook page that you like and follow. And of course, as always, if there's something that's said today that you find rather provocative and want to share with your friends, by all means, please feel free to share this particular video on your timeline. The same thing goes with YouTube, the YouTube video. In the event that we're out there, something happens, go out to YouTube and on the search, just type Once Wayward. You'll come up with a great big giant O, and you'll find all of the videos that have ever been done. Oh, with the exception of one. And one of these days I'll get around to putting it back out there. Been talking over the last month or so about Ephesians chapter 5 verse 16, where it says redeeming the times because the days are evil. And we're still talking about time. And the thing about time, of course, is that one of the things about it is that time was instituted by God. And this is just a bit of a recap. It was instituted by God, and you'll find it in the beginning at about verse 5 in the book of Genesis. And there's a couple of other mentions of things that God did in order for us to understand what time was. We also need to understand that the end of his creation, on the seventh day, he rested, and that concluded what we commonly refer to as a week. For those of you that are into evolution and what have you, I find no real basis for it because, again, science is created by man. It wasn't created by God. It's something that man has done trying to understand what it is that God has done in order to get to where it is that they comprehend the mind of God, but it doesn't necessarily happen that way. You'll find that most of the evolutionary things that we're talking about can actually be explained by the great tale, the great narrative of the flood, the antediluvian period, if you will. So having said all of that, let me just go on and continue, because one of the things that is important to us is that we understand how important this time thing is, because every moment, every experience that we have, all of those things are based on our recollections of time. That we lump our experiences together, our moments are measured, they're lumped together into a span that we designate as a lifetime. That lifetime, that time that we are talking about, as far as a lifetime is concerned, is normally on a tombstone recognized by a born date and a born again date. Well, not a born again date, but a death date. Or born into heaven date, if you will. And the thing about it is that these two particular dates are separated by a hyphen, and the sum of our accomplishments are represented in the hyphen. The hyphen doesn't say whether we're going to heaven or to hell. If we've treated people well, if we are or were happy, sad, joyful, or lived a life of despair. It doesn't tell the observer whether we were successful or not. It just tells people that we were here. Only recordings and records will tell our story with the assistance of those that were parts of our lives. And we only live on in history based on the fact that someone has remembered us. Yet it is believed by scientists that the sound waves of the words that we have spoken will never go away, but will always travel through time infinitely. So having said all of that, we understand that our conversations are based on verb conjugation, and that verb conjugation, we talk in terms of the past, the present, and the future. No matter how we talk, we only live in the present. We can't predict with precision what will happen in the future, and we don't have the ability to change our past. What we can do, though, is we can learn from our past in order to make better decisions in the present and to make even even better decisions in the future. Because the thing is that one of the wonderful things about time, if we actually use it the way that it was intended to use, we will always do better the next day than we did the previous day, or that we're doing today. At least that's our hope. Sometimes we have things that go on in our lives that just weigh us down. And the thing about it is that we need to understand that those things are a lump sum of what it is that God has allowed for it to happen to us so that we might grow closer to him. The wonderful thing about the Bible, and I'm going to switch gears just a little bit, because the book of Ecclesiastes, that book written by Qoheleth, or better yet in the Hebrew, but better yet the preacher, and it is been referred that it was written by King Solomon. And the third chapter is the chapter that most people or most preachers actually use at funerals, where it talks about a time for everything. Well, the thing about it is that there may be a time or a season for everything. But the thing about it is that for each and every one of us, we can only live in that particular moment. We don't understand the season. We don't understand what we've gone through most times until after we've gone through it. Because God doesn't want, because the thing is that God gives it to us incrementally in bites that we can handle. Sometimes we're just not ready to handle whatever it is that's going on in this great big giant experience that we are beginning to have. So the thing about it is that one of the things that we have to do is we have to find God's rest in that day called today. Every day we should be looking and seeking to deepen our relationship and our fellowship with God, because we don't know how much time we have. But the thing about it is that when we give our problems and our troubles over to God, we have an opportunity to rest in that moment. We have an opportunity to rest in that day. We have an opportunity to rest in him, to grow in him, to love in him, and to be all of the things that he would have us to be when the time comes for us to share that experience with someone else. Because as I've said many times before, the experiences that we have gone through are not for us necessarily, but for us to be able to share them as a part of our testimony, because we don't know how much time other people have, but we do know that as a part of our time as followers of Jesus Christ, that what we have been done is what has been done to us is that we have been commissioned in order to lift him up so that we might draw other people to him. So the thing about it is that it's up to us to be able to talk about our testimony. It's up to us to be able to share what it is that God has done with us and to us. Sometimes it's necessary for us to share the past pains that we've gone through in order to get to where it is that God would have us to go. But not only that though, but to help us to minister to someone that we encounter who may be going through the same thing. And as far as that's concerned, what we're talking about here is the fact that God, who Daniel refers to as the Ancient of Days, understands our plight and our troubles more than we could ever imagine. We have to remember that he stepped out of his deity, clothed himself in human flesh, and came and lived among us so that he could be that one sacrificial lamb, that one-time sacrifice that would give us an opportunity to be redeemed and to get to that time and space where we are in relationship with him. That's all I have for you today, and we'll be talking to you later. Thanks, and God bless.